Hi, this is Greg Kilstrom. Welcome to the Agile World podcast, where we discuss customer experience, employee experience, and transformation in an agile age. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at theagile.world and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, a blueprint for creating an experience-led organization, now available on Amazon and other retailers. Hi, this is Greg Kilstrom. Welcome back to the Agile World podcast. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more about personalization and orchestration, particularly in regards to customer experience. So I've talked a bit about listening to the voice of the customer, using indirect, implicit, and explicit feedback. Talked a bit about next best action, but today I wanted to talk a little bit more about how personalization and orchestration can be used and how they can be most successful. So I'm going to go through first a few things that can help you be most successful with personalization. First is really asking the right questions. So I've worked with a lot of clients who have said, well, we really want to personalize this experience. And, there's certainly a lot of facts and figures out there. I mean, I cite quite a few myself of, how customers are really expecting their communications and their everything from shopping to customer service experience to be personalized. But when it really comes down to planning what that means, you really have to ask the right questions and figure out what do you really need to or want to personalize. What's the problem that you're really trying to solve? Many times, personalization is allowing your customers to more clearly understand your product or service based on how relevant it is to them. And so we really need to understand what they're looking for, who they are, what their pain points might be, and things like that. So if your competitors are if it's hard to kind of differentiate yourself in the marketplace, using personalization is really a key way to be able to stand out from the pack. The question is, what problem is your customer trying to solve that you can then personalize around? Is it a geographic issue of things are different in different places? Is it based on somewhere they might have come from previously? They might be looking for certain to answer certain questions. Really understanding that is going to be key in being successful with personalization. Second thing is really knowing your audiences. So while this is related to the previous point in knowing to ask the right questions, it's also important to know that your audience is not a monolithic, not a single monolithic audience. There are probably different groups within that have different needs and challenges. So being able to say, okay, this group of people is looking to solve this issue. This group of people is looking for, maybe some are really just, they want a quick path to purchase. They know exactly what they want. They're already, deep within the buying journey, and they really need to get in and out, so to speak. And others need to be more educated. So really understanding where someone is in their journey, but also in the buying process is going to really help you understand and optimize for personalization. That way, someone that wants to do a lot more learning, you can provide more content to them, where someone in a hurry really just wants that stuff out of the way and just wants to make that buying process as seamless as possible. And last point about making personalization successful is that content is still king. So it's still so important that you have the right not only the right content for one of your audiences, but the right content and the right content strategy. So, it's not enough to have some great content somewhere on your website or in your email campaign or something like that. It's really understanding, how do you create great content centrally and then disseminate that through the right channels. So if you do content strategy well, you should be able to create some, central pieces of content that can then be broken down into pieces and then divided by audience, by channel, by all of these things to really make sure you're sharing the right thing. You're sharing it at the right point in the journey with the right audience. If things are structured this way, it's also not, that sounds like a lot of work when you look at the output. But if you plan it right, you can actually create something a little bit larger that is then split up into all these different pieces. And then ultimately, when it needs to get updated or changed, because you have this central way of looking at all your content, you can then easily update instead of having a lot of disparate things all over the place that then you have to create new versions of all of these little things that are related, but kind of separate and kind of all over the place. So that central content strategy really is key to being, to being successful. And, last note that I'll say is, it's really important to be realistic about personalization, content strategy as well, but personalization. So what I mean by this is it would be great if every single person that went to your website that, received marketing materials from you had a, completely personalized experience, message, all of those kinds of things. In reality, not every organization, even large organizations, can really do that effectively. So it's important to be realistic about when you come up with a great idea, can you scale that, across all of your different audiences? Can you scale that over time? So, depending on how quickly your market moves, you may be making, you may do a great job, spend months creating all this content for something, and then a month later, you have to update it again because your competition is changing, the market's changing, all of these things. Do you have the bandwidth to perpetually feed that machine, so to speak, with personalized content for all of the different audiences, all of the different channels, all of the different ways you're slicing and dicing it? So, as with most things, and really using the agile methodology, I would recommend starting small. Doing something realistic, and then building it to scale over time. As you do that, the other benefit with that is you get to learn what works on a smaller scale without spending all the time to roll it out. So this agile, iterative process of growing things becomes really beneficial. Last point I'll make here is really, successful personalization solves a real challenge. As I was saying earlier, really understanding what your customers are trying to, to accomplish. It may be a problem they're trying to solve. It may be something they're trying to achieve. Whatever the case may be, the end result needs to be helping, not simply making things different or unique or things like that. And when you do that, when you orchestrate it properly, showing the right person, the right thing at the right time on the right device, then personalization will be very successful. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile World podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. You can learn more and get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, from my website at theagile.world or on Amazon or other retailers. Until next week, stay agile.